Welcome in, welcome back to the Touchdown Black and Gold vlog, where we examine, discuss, celebrate, and honor all things college football, but with a very special emphasis on our beloved black and gold squads of the Missouri Tigers and the Iowa Hawkeyes. Welcome back once again to the Touchdown Black and Gold vlog. I have a very special episode lined up for you today. This is in response to the earth-shaking move and news that broke at the end of last week. Definitely we'll get to that here very soon. And just so you've seen as far as the attire that I've chosen to break out for this episode, here I am in the Show Me State, coming to you live from the man cave. That outside, it is a hot one. I just checked before coming on air with you, the beloved black and gold family. Right now outside, it feels like 106 degrees. So definitely I'm thinking about nice tropical destinations. I got my shade hat on. Definitely think it's something that is a appropriate pick for today's episode because, to quote the song, it is a heat wave, burning like a heat wave. It definitely is. Anyway, and the reason why this is a very special episode, already kind of referred to it there in the intro. This is in response to that breaking news at the end of last week that absolutely has had a huge ripple effect across the entire college football landscape, but especially in the conference of the Iowa Hawkeyes, being the Big Ten Conference. And before I go any further, let me take the opportunity, as always, to thank you, the Black and Gold family, for all of your support and your continued support. Last week was a big week here on the channel. We picked up 3 more subscribers, now totaling 47. We are this close, right there to that first milestone goal I had of 50 subscribers. We need 3 more, and we have that first milestone reached. So thank you to all of you. This is an absolute pleasure for you and for me to join you and just join in celebrating and sharing my love, my passion of college football with you on the weekly. So thank you for all that you do. Let's continue to gain some more momentum. Let's pass the word. Please like, share, rate, subscribe, tell your friends, tell your family, tell any college football fan, not just those who root for the black and gold, but this is a safe haven for all college football fans alike, a safe harbor. I encourage all of us, anyone and everyone, to join me on this journey on the Touchdown Black and Gold vlog. So thank you for your continued support. Now, the news that broke last week, I mean, as soon as I read this, initially I thought maybe it was just something that was being reported or this and that. It is something that is being discussed. But within a day, it came from being reported to official. And that is, as soon as I saw that, I felt like in the great Carole King when she wrote how I feel the earth move under my feet. I feel the sky tumbling down. That's what I felt like. As well did a lot of you college football fans when you saw this news become official. And what I am referring to is, yes, something that I did not think would happen, at least in my lifetime, but I shouldn't be so surprised with all of the expansion lately. Say it with me. USC, UCLA have left the Pac-12 and have joined the Big Ten Conference. Officially, they will join the conference for competitions in the calendar year of 2024. So very soon. This news just moved very quickly like a wildfire. It broke that night. The Big Ten presidents, commissioners, ADs, presidents, chancellors met, and they did approve adding UCLA and USC to the Big Ten Conference. Wow. Just wow. I still am in absolute shock of this breaking news. And later in the episode, I'll kind of give you my thoughts on it, both good, bad, pro, con, positive, negative. I'll share those with you and let you make your own mind up to what you believe. Is this a good or a bad thing for the Big Ten, for the Pac-12, or for college football, period, across the entire landscape? Yeah, this news. I mean, also, not just Carole King, but to quote my favorite, the boss, Bruce Springsteen, when he introduces the legendary E Street Band, he will use such phrases as the heart stoppin', pants droppin', hard rockin', booty shakin', love makin', earthquakin'. That is the news about USC and UCLA joining the Big Ten. I am still in absolute awe of this. Not shock, but in awe that this has actually happened. So, and the thing why, when you didn't think it could get any crazier, here we are. We are just about a year away from, remember, just a little bit over a year ago, that breaking news came out during Big 12, during the SEC media days, about Oklahoma and Texas potentially looking to join the SEC. And this response by the Big Ten is an absolute huge response to that. And I will share that with you here in a little bit, to where this potentially is maybe even a bigger splash than that news and that acquisition by the SEC could be when compared to this acquisition and expansion by the Big Ten. So let's go ahead and get to it officially. So I'm going to present and discuss 5 questions with you today. First of all, why would UCLA and USC leave the Conference of Champions for the Big Ten? Why now? What were their main reasons? Why? Next question would be the pros and cons for the Big Ten with the additions of UCLA and USC. What's to gain or maybe potentially lose for the Big Ten? Next question is poaching the Pac-12 conference by the Big Ten over? Also, along with expansion in general, potentially is the Big Ten still looking to add more teams from the Pac-12 conference or other teams across the entire landscape? Notre Dame? We'll get to that answer here in a little bit. The fourth question is, what does the Pac-12 do in response to secure and safeguard itself as a power player in the college football landscape? What does the Pac-12 do? What do they need to do? What do they have to do? Or do they simply just disintegrate like in the Avengers Infinity War with one little snap? Half of their conference or their conference as a whole disappears? We'll have to wait and see. And the fifth question I'm going to present to you, the Black and Gold family, for discussion and for you to form your own opinion is, how does this development affect the teams and conferences who are indirectly involved with this? And what is their potential response? There is absolutely going to be a trickle-down effect from this. I mean, in response, what does the SEC do? Or the Big 12? What are some of these teams that have already been rumored to be looking to join other conferences? What do they do? So there is a lot to unpack during this very special episode of the Touchdown Black and Gold vlog. And as always, I encourage any involvement by you, the people. I give the people what they want. So please, if there is something you'd like me to discuss, or if you agree or disagree with my opinions, please feel free. Let me know. Let's just keep it clean. Let's all be adults. And just like Rodney King said before, can't we all just get along? Can't we not just do this? So let's be adults when sharing your opinions about my opinions or the facts that I will present you. So moving on. So let's move into the first question of discussion as far as what I'm going to present to you. So the first question is, why leave the Pac-12 for the Big Ten? What prompted USC and UCLA to do this? Why now? Why, just in general, why do this? Leave one prestigious conference for another. Let's go ahead and see. And this is what I've come up with. Feel free, share your comments, your thoughts with me. Like, share, subscribe. So I believe the main reason why these two LA schools left is they want to remain relevant. These two programs are huge brands. I mean, they both have national titles. They have multiple Heisman Trophy winners. And look, they serve a huge television market in Los Angeles. But let's just cut to the chase. UCLA and USC, they are the banner programs and standards and brands for the Pac-12 conference. But it's been tough sledding lately for the Pac-12 conference as of late, especially in the 4-team playoff era. The last time the Pac-12 was represented in the college football playoff, in the current format of 4 teams, was Washington back in 2017. So it has been tough for the Pac-12 to break down the door. They've been knocking, but no one's letting them in. So I believe this was a move for the Bruins and the men of Troy to remain relevant in the college football landscape. This to them was the best opportunity to do exactly that. Also, money. I mean, you call it money, dinero, bread, dough, pesos, Deutsch, pound, whatever you want to call it. I mean, this is a big-time money move. Not only because of the revenue that the Big Ten Conference creates in general, which is buku bucks. So, brother, to buku, it's ungodly how much revenue that the Big Ten Conference is making, but it's really through their TV media rights deal. And now you add one of the 3 biggest television markets in the nation in Los Angeles. And that joins the other huge television markets that already reside within the Big Ten footprint. I'm talking New York, DC, Chicago, Detroit, Indy, and now you have LA. I mean, just in the amount of eyeballs that this is going to put on USC and UCLA. I mean, there's going to be nonstop football, Big Ten football, that's going to happen Saturdays or Friday nights in the fall when they officially join in 2024. I mean, this is all about money. They are going to get filthy rich from joining the Big Ten Conference. Also, I kind of already brought this up. My last point is the coverage, the eyeballs that this will create. I mean, these two teams, they want to remain in the spotlight. They want to be featured, as well they should. I've been saying all last year, when you watched, if you were with me last season on the inaugural first season of the Touchdown Black and Gold vlog, I begged the Pac-12 to break through. I think it is absolutely a great thing for them to be relevant again. The Conference of Champions. I am sick and tired of not seeing anybody be relevant from the West Coast. As a child growing up, the Rose Bowl was must-see TV. I mean, all of the great USC teams that I saw. I mean, it's really depressing and unbelievable to see how far they've fallen off the map of the landscape of college football. So these two brands, they want to remain in the spotlight. They want coverage. They want to have that featured game, whether it's prime time here in the Midwest or on the West Coast or East Coast, which we'll get to that logistical issue here in a little bit for another question. So I think it's also to put their programs on a pedestal because, quite frankly, they believe they deserve it, and they should. They should get featured. They absolutely should. Next thing, too, it's for these two programs, I've already brought it up as well, but I'll say it again. This is their best opportunity that they see at the very end when the dust clears at the end of the regular season. This is their perceived best chance to be playing for the big prizes in college football. And I absolutely agree with that because of how down the conference has been. Like I said, not since 2017, the last time the Pac-12 had a participant in the college football playoff. Now, another thing that I believe factored into this was from a recruiting basis. And that's the one thing that potentially has been lost recently with college football, especially with the onset of NIL and the transfer portal, that the regionality of college football has almost disappeared. So many of the great recruits from Southern California, Central California, North California, across the great state of California, the talent-rich state of California for football, was leaving the West Coast for the Clemsons, the Ohio States, the Alabamas, the Texas, the Oklahomas. They were leaving left and right. I mean, my guy out in Clemson, quarterback DJ Uyunglele, was the number 3 overall recruit in that class, and now he is out in the ACC at Clemson. So I think this also is going to help these two programs rise by gathering more talent once again through local and regional recruiting. So I think this will absolutely inspire or kind of give a little bit of reward for some of those recruits to stay at home on the West Coast. And also with NIL money, you talk about Tinseltown, LA. Woo! Ric Flair style right there. Just think of the possibilities for collectives NIL in the Los Angeles area. It's something that's a whole episode we could talk about some other time. So that's why I believe these two teams left the Pac-12 for the Big Ten. Next question is, let's discuss, so let me present to you the pros and cons for the Big Ten adding UCLA and USC. First of all, let's do the pros that came out of my mind. Is the Big Ten now further expands their powerful brand, both as a conference and both of those programs do as well. I mean, right now the huge talk is about the super conference, where we're going. You know, are we only going to have 2 remaining when it's all said and done, the SEC and the Big Ten? Whatever. I don't necessarily think that's going to be the end result, but right now, isn't it already like that? I mean, what 2 conferences are dominating the landscape anyway? It's the Big Ten and the SEC. So that argument, I think, is just null and void, to tell you the truth. But another pro is the addition of another major television market. Already brought this one up. I mean, the population of LA, it's a sports town. They love their sports. I think now they're going to be even more energized. I mean, on top of USC getting from Oklahoma Coach Lincoln Riley, I think this is even more of a shot in the arm for USC fans to rally, and Bruins fans as well there in Westwood. Another pro for the Big Ten is, I know I've said this before, and some of you folks who think it doesn't matter or Blair, just shut your mouth. Hey, it's something that is worth noting, that both USC and UCLA are both AAU schools. That is the Association of American Universities. That means they have very high academic standards in stating, and they are considered research facilities and universities. About half of the universities in this nation are, but all but one currently in the Big Ten, and that's with adding the LA schools, are members of the AAU. Nebraska, go figure, they're the only ones that aren't, but when they were added initially to the Big Ten, they were, but they lost that title shortly after joining the conference. And that does matter a lot to the Big Ten, the academic standing of its schools, and it should. After all, I know the landscape has changed, but these are still amateur athletes, student athletes. So a premise should be also not just success on the athletic fields, but in the classroom as well. I know I sound like an NCAA commercial, but hey, you know, that's what I truly believe in. And no offense, no disrespect, as Paulie Walnuts would say, to my brethren in the SEC, because hey, I got no problems, I got no beef with the SEC. That is where Missouri, one of the 2 black and golds, home conferences, but you know who you are, what schools I'm talking about, to where an applicant can simply spell their name correctly, they're going to get accepted. You know who you are. I'm sorry, it's just the way it is, but let's move on from that topic before I get a lot of hate mail. The blasphemy, how dare you, you Yankee, you Northerner, you're always blasting the SEC, you're jealous, you're a hater, blah, blah, blah. I don't want to hear any of that because I don't hate. I don't discriminate. The SEC, you get it done. That's all that matters, right? It just means more. Okay, but anyway, next point. Also, now the Big Ten has a footprint and a reach from coast to coast. East Coast all the way to the West Coast and in between. Every time zone except for one, the Mountain Time, is where they don't have a university that is officially in the conference as of yet. So its reach is literally coast to coast. I mean, that is manifest destiny right there, you know, in a nutshell, if you're looking at it from a college football perspective. So on the East Coast, you've got Rutgers and Maryland. Now on the West Coast, you've got UCLA and USC. I mean, how great is that for the Big Ten? And other pros to that is recruiting, as well as going to big time increase for the Big Ten Conference, because it will now become even more competitive on the field and more cutthroat to get those recruits. So those are a lot of good pros for the Big Ten, but there are some cons, some issues that I see to where this could be very difficult. Maybe not to the point of falling apart, but there are going to be big time challenges and cons for the Big Ten Conference adding the LA schools. One of those is now both of those LA schools are kind of off by themselves on a lonely island on the West Coast. That's right, the Lonely Island, if you remember them. I'm on a boat. If you're on the shore, then you're sure not me-o. That's right. You gotta love the Lonely Island from SNL. But you have two teams out there by themselves, just kind of hanging out. Hey, we're way over here. Do you hear us? Do you see us over there? Echo, echo. So that is definitely a con, and here's why. I mean, the logistical challenges that presents, and this is if they don't add any more teams from that region, which we'll get to that here in a little bit, if I think they will or won't. But just the logistical challenge for travel, both for university athletes and fans. I mean, right now, let's say USC plays Penn State. Wow, USC is going to have to get on a plane, travel what? Basically all 4 time zones to get to that away game. I mean, it's really a nightmare logistically, and also think of the money that is going to cost. And remember, this is not just for football. This is for the non-revenue sports as well. So big time travel challenges. Another one too is the logistical challenge of viewership. And I think this one can be remedied pretty easy, but it's really going to be kind of a juggling act for the Big Ten and its media partners, Fox, ESPN, the Big Ten Network, FS1, whoever it is. But I mean, basically having a primetime game. If you're a Big Ten fan on the East Coast, maybe you root for Maryland, or you're an Ohio State person, Michigan State. I'm not going to say Michigan, but let's say you want to, hey, I want to stay inclined, I want to stay in the know with Big Ten football. Are you going to stay up until 10 o'clock your time if they're going to kick off on the West Coast prime time? I don't know about all that. That's going to be a challenge. It already is. I love Pac-12 After Dark on Friday nights. I usually try to stay up to at least watch one half of that game. But even me, I mean, yeah, I am old. I'm 41 years old, but that's even late for a halfway young pup like me. So it's really going to be a challenge to maybe make this line up to where the majority of the country and Big Ten fans alike, college football fans alike, can tune into these two new schools as they compete in the Big Ten. But I definitely think this is something that can be remedied and fixed a little bit easier. But quite frankly, from a fan standpoint, wow. I mean, you talk about you could have a full day of watching Big Ten football. I mean, you could have a kickoff here at 11 a.m. in the Midwest, and then you could have a 7 or 8 o'clock at night kickoff here in the Midwest on the West Coast. You could watch Big Ten football the entire day. I mean, that does sound pretty enticing, and I gotta admit, gets me a little excited. All right, just does. Don't ask how excited. I don't want to discuss. But I think in Sarah Marshall, what did he say? It went from 6 to midnight. Anyway, let's move on. So a couple of other cons of the Big Ten adding these two LA schools could be what happens. Now, also the viewership, and kind of something I mentioned, but not really specifically, is the time zones. I mean, you have Big Ten universities now in 3 of the 4 time zones in the continental United States. So, I mean, just viewership and travel. I mean, I'm going to say all 4 because you have to cross the mountain time zone to get to the West Coast, then back to the East Coast and Midwest. So it's going to be a huge challenge for that, no doubt. Another one, and this is one that really hits home to me. If you watched last year, you know the love and the obsession, just the everything I have and what I feel towards the granddaddy of them all, the Rose Bowl game. Will this game continue to be as relevant as it has been in the past and currently is? I mean, if these two teams are in the Big Ten now, is that something that they're just going to do away with the legendary and traditional New Year's Day matchups of Big Ten versus Pac-12? Yes, I know certain years they've had the college football playoff in the Rose Bowl, the title game. I get that. But most generally, every year, what's going to happen to the granddaddy of them all? I mean, as an Iowa fan, that is my biggest dream. I mean, yes, would I love to see Iowa in the college football playoff and play for a chance to get to and maybe win a national title? Absolutely. But let's be realistic. That's pretty far-fetched. So getting to the Rose Bowl and getting a Rose Bowl victory, that would almost mean just as much, if not more, to me than getting into the college football playoff. So that's just my opinion. So what's going to happen to the granddaddy of them all? I am concerned about the Rose Bowl game. No matter what, will I continue to watch it? Absolutely. It is like a tradition like none other. I hate to borrow the saying of the Masters for the Rose Bowl, but I can. I can do it. It's my show, and that's how it is. But it just would be a shame to see it lose some of its prestige and its meaning because these two schools are now in the Big Ten. It just is. Now, the third question, let me get a quick swig of water here. And thank you once again for your time, your attention. Like, share, subscribe, comment. Let me know how I'm doing. Let me know what you think. Third question to present is, now, is the poaching over by the Big Ten of the Pac-12 along with expansion overall? So I'm going to say a very resounding hell no. Not just no, but hell no. And what the hell? It's not. Because right now it's reported that there's so many teams currently in the Pac-12 that are reaching out to this conference or that conference. I'm going to tell you what I believe is going to happen next. And when I say this, this means what could happen in the next 6 months during the upcoming season. After that, more things, more dominoes could continue to fall, and I'm sure they will. Right now, it's being reported and wanted by a lot of Big Ten fans, and I think college football fans are saying that Oregon and Washington, they need to now leave the Pac-12 for the Big Ten. Perhaps, maybe. Would I be okay with that? Absolutely, I would. I mean, I would not be opposed to adding the Huskies and the Ducks, but I don't think that's what's going to happen. Because, yes, do they bring good brands for football? Yes, but other sports? Not so much. Perhaps Oregon, especially with the monetary backing of Nike president and Oregon alum Phil Knight, I could see that. But this is what I think is going to happen. I do believe that there will be two teams that very shortly will, in fact, report, and they will say we are also leaving the Pac-12 for the Big Ten. And I think these two teams fit better, and they do, academically and also from a location perspective. I think that Stanford and Cal and Stanford will be the next two teams that will join the Big Ten. And it makes total sense. You add another huge television market, the Bay Area, Frisco, Oakland, San Jose, Alameda. It's another home run for the Big Ten. And also look at those two universities' academic standards. I mean, they are first class. Stanford basically is an Ivy League school, just like Northwestern is, just like Vanderbilt. And then the Big Ten has the entire state of California on lockdown. Not love lockdown, just lockdown. So I believe those are the two teams that will be next in line to join the Big Ten, is Cal and Stanford. And I think it just makes more sense. I mean, year in, year out, when you look at the success of athletic departments overall, not just football, non-revenue sports, number of Olympians, titles, individual championships, team championships, Stanford is always top 5. I mean, this is a slam dunk, easy decision for me to make. Add those two next, and then we'll see what happens after that. So I think absolutely the poaching of the Pac-12 is not done yet. And now expansion. Overall, I think the Big Ten is still discussing with a lot of teams now, not from the Pac-12, and I'm specifically looking at you, Notre Dame, there in Indiana. You're in the Big Ten footprint. You want your independent status. You want your NBC contracts. You want your money. You want your feature. You want your coverage. I get that. And historically, prestigiously, yes. Traditionally, you offer so much. So I understand why Notre Dame would want to try to remain an independent. But right now, moving forward, the way we're seeing these things unfold, last year, first of all, with SEC expansion and now Big Ten expansion, it is completely unsustainable to try to remain an independent and right in the college football landscape right here and now. I mean, I think this expansion by the Big Ten it's going to ultimately force Notre Dame to make a decision. They have to join a conference. And when push comes to shove, it's either going to be the Big Ten or the ACC. It's going to be one of those two. So we'll see which one they do go with. But also, could the Big Ten maybe add some teams from the Big 12? Potentially. I don't know. We'll have to wait and see. But the poaching, definitely not over. And expansion, kind of in a holding pattern for now. We'll have to wait and see. But moving on, next question I present to you is, how can the Pac-12 safeguard its conference and its status as a Power 5 conference among the current Power 5? What can they do? What should they do? What can they do? That's the big question here. That's the big question here for the Pac-12 conference. I mean, I believe this. They must act and act decisively right now. And they must make a major splash to combat what has just happened amongst their own ranks. If they simply attempt to tread water at this point, ultimately, they're going to drown. It's that simple. They need to do something. They need to. They must not allow any more defections from their own ranks. No more of their teams can leave. But like I said, I do believe Stanford and Cal, they gone. They're going to be heading out very soon to the Big Ten. So what else can they do then? Right now, they're in a very, very dangerous predicament. And when I look back on almost a year ago, initially when it was reported and confirmed that Texas and Oklahoma were leaving the Big 12, and now USC and UCLA, USC leaving for the Big Ten, You have the Pac-12 and the Big 12 that were both at that point in peril, kind of on life support. But when you compare the two, the Pac-12 is on even thinner ice than the Big 12 was at that time. There's no doubt in my mind a very dangerous time for the Pac-12 conference. I mean, if more depart, let's go ahead and cue Edgar Allan Poe's Raven. The Conference of Champions will end up being nevermore. And I do think that could happen. We are very, very dangerously close to seeing the next power conference dissolve and just disappear like the Big East did, going the way of the dodo. So we're very close to seeing that happen if steps aren't taken by the Pac-12 conference. So what should they do? This is my suggestion. To strengthen its standing, its prestige, and its position, I really think right now this is what needs to happen. Both the Pac-12 and the Big 12 need to combine to form the first official power and major conference. That's what should happen. Those two teams rebrand, merge, rename yourselves. Those two conferences should now combine as one. That is what they should do. Will it happen? Only time will tell. Just like Asia said. Some of you are like, who's Asia? Oh, well, I forget. Some of you aren't 80s children. I'm sorry. All right. So the fifth and final question that I present to you for discussion and for you to make your opinion, the Black and Gold family, 1 second, is how will the other conferences respond to this development? And those are the conferences that are indirectly involved because with this development, it's not just the Big 10 and the Pac-12 who are involved. Everybody is involved. SEC, ACC, Big 12, some of the non-Power 5 conferences, absolutely. This has ripple effects. Dominoes are falling. Chess pieces are being placed. And right now, the Pac-12 is in check. Absolutely, they are. So what are some of the other conferences going to do in response? What can they do to stay a step ahead of finding themselves in the same situation? Let's check it out right now. So right now, it is reported by several news outlets that the Big 12 is in active discussions with adding 4 of the Pac-12 teams. Those being Utah, Colorado, Arizona, Arizona State. And those 4 make absolute sense for the Big 12, especially Utah and Colorado. Because if you add Utah, you're adding a natural in-state rivalry with BYU, who is going to join your conference, I believe, in 2 years. So then those two teams, the Cougars and the Utes, the 2 Utes, I love saying that, they can continue what I think is one of the greatest rivalry games we have, the Holy War. I love that. What a great nickname for a rivalry game. And Colorado too. Then you kind of have 3 teams in the Rocky Mountain area for natural rivalries. It makes total sense. Or maybe they want to add Boise State. I don't know. But I think adding those 2 is a slam dunk. And adding the Arizona schools, I mean, there you have teams that aren't that far away from you, all the Texas schools. It's very close. It's easy travel for participants and fans alike. But also you add a huge television market in the Phoenix area. So I think that's a smart move by the Big 12. So I think if those 2 conferences do not merge like I just suggested they should, the Pac-12 and the Big 12, I do believe those 4 teams will go to the Big 12 conference. Next is the mighty SEC. What will they do? What will they attempt? Will they attempt to create a tsunami to respond to this huge rogue wave that the Big 10 just created? And initially, this started last year by the SEC, adding Texas and Oklahoma. They started with that big wave coming inland. And now the Big 10, as I just said, has created the rogue wave. So will the SEC try to one them up and create a tsunami? If they do, if they are, what can they do to create that? Well, this is what they can do. And this is what a lot of people have reportedly said on record they think they will try to do. Try to do a little bit of poaching of themselves. Not of the Pac-12 schools, but more your ACC major brands, that some of these programs that lie within the footprint of the SEC, of the Southeast Conference. And those teams that keep coming up that are associated with that make total sense. Clemson, Miami, and Florida State. Clemson, obviously a huge football brand, multiple national titles in recent memory. They got a good thing going. I definitely expect they're going to have a good bounce back here, but you'll have to wait for my ACC preview and predictions show later on this offseason in the summer. And also they're in South Carolina, so their arrival with the Gamecocks, they play them every year anyway. And in the Sunshine State, you've got the Gators. You might as well add their other two biggest rivals in state, the Miami Hurricanes and the Florida State Seminoles. It makes total sense to where people think those three teams could pack up and head to the SEC. And doing that, in my estimation, will that then trump this move by the Big Ten? Possibly. And I say that because then you do add three more brands, but I don't know if those brands equal more to what the Big Ten would have. And before that, let's write, and I just want to compare this. I wrote this down. I thought it was something to chew on a little bit. That when you look at the two recent additions by both of these conferences, the SEC and the Big Ten. The SEC adding Texas and Oklahoma, you add two big brands. Also, between them, they have 11 national titles. Not bad. But the Big Ten adding USC and UCLA, they have 12 national titles between them, and USC has 11 of those by themselves. And when you look at the top 15, top 20 winningest programs of all time, in the top 10, you can take, let's just remove two of them. Penn and Yale are there. Let's take them out. That right there, then you're going to have USC. And right now, the Big Ten already has Michigan. They have Ohio State, Penn State, Nebraska. Now you're going to add USC into the fold. I mean, I don't know. I don't know at this point. As of right now, when you look at these additions, and I'm kind of going off my little notes here, so stay with me. But I'm going to say this, not just being a Homer Simpson. I am a Big Ten man, but first and foremost, I'm a college football guy. Is right now with the Big Ten adding the LA schools, they have outdone the SEC in adding Texas and Oklahoma because of prestige, eyeballs, money, all of the pros that I gave you earlier, and the revenue that will be created. Absolutely, they have outdone the SEC. They have outmaneuvered them. But does that really matter, to be devil's advocate, but also it's just the truth? Does that outmaneuvering for logistics matter, really? No, because what really matters ultimately is decided on the field, and recently the SEC has an absolute dominant edge on that, on the Big Ten. So it may not really matter, but just from a paper standpoint, from everything looks like prestige, money, eyeballs, everything that looks good on paper and in name, the Big Ten right now moving forward is the best conference in the nation. It just is. I'm sorry. And also add in academically. I mean, I hate to bring that up. I know you SEC fans get all uppity about, oh, we have great schools. You have good schools. I mean, Vanderbilt, I'm not even talking about them. They're in a league of their own, okay? They just are. So, I don't know. But will the SEC try to add those three schools? FSU, Miami, and Clemson? I think they will. Ultimately, can they persuade them to join? I think they can, but I don't know if that will officially happen. We'll have to wait and see. Next one is, will the ACC, what will they do? And I do believe the ACC is on solid footing right now. I don't think they will disappear. yes, if they lose Clemson, Florida State, Miami, their three biggest brands for football, yeah, it's going to be Danger Will Robinson. Absolutely for the ACC. But as of right now, I think they're in a safe spot. Especially, I believe this. I would love to see Notre Dame in the Big Ten. I think that's where they belong. Logistically, from a geographic standpoint, recruits, everything makes sense to join the Big Ten. But if Notre Dame joins a conference, I do believe they will join the ACC. And that will then only further cement them as a long-standing conference just because of adding a Notre Dame into the fold. So that's it. I'm going to wrap it up. That's it for this very, very special episode of the Touchdown Black and Gold vlog. It's been an absolute pleasure, as it always is for me. Once again, let me know how I did. Like, share, rate, subscribe. We'll have to watch these events and see what materializes. I absolutely will keep you up to date on any other further and additional breaking news about expansion. But until next time, I do have a very special episode coming up shortly. It'll be one of, if not my favorite episode that I did last year, my bold and crystal ball predictions for the upcoming 2022 season. If you missed last year's episode, you can find it. My 2021 bold and crystal ball predictions. Check it out. I think you'll enjoy it. Actually, I don't think you will. I know you will enjoy it. So until next time, I bid you all adieu, farewell, peace, love, prosperity. And until next time, take care of yourselves, good health, good fortune. And as always, thank you for joining me on this episode of the Touchdown Black and Gold vlog. See you soon.